Hey, what's happening, everybody? I'm Larry Roberts, and this is another episode of the Readily Random Podcast.
Hey, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world.
Today I have another author in the house, and her name is Amy Lyle. Now, I've seen her book, even, Barnes & Noble. That's legit. That's legit. Now, I have a book, as you all know, and, it's available on Amazon, but it's not available at Barnes & Noble, so I still got some work to do ahead of me if I want to get it in there. But for now, we're going to talk to a real author, Amy Lyle. What's happening?
How are you? Hello from Atlanta.
Atlanta, GA.
Hot here.
You was going to say it's hot as what? No, careful. It's a clean show.
Then I know.
I know. That's good. No. It's funny. I mean, you would have been perfect, and you're a perfect guest for this show too. But my previous show was a blue comedy podcast, and I think we could have had some good times there.
No, I am not blue comedy.
No?
I'll listen to blue comedy, but I try to be very clean.
Excellent.
Because, I don't know if you know this, but I do some stand-up comedy, and it's all clean.
It's funny, and I was just doing a podcast last hour, and I told the guy that I had done some stand-up comedy as well, and one of my goals was to get on a podcast called Kill Tony. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh my gosh. Every podcaster always recommends Kill Tony.
It's the best. It's the absolute best.
Funny.
So I love that show. I've loved the show. And I'm a huge fan of Tony Hinchcliffe, who's the primary host. And they took the show on the road and they came to Dallas. And sure enough, I put my name in the bucket. I got called up to do my best 60 seconds that I could possibly do. And at the time, I was pursuing comedy a lot more so than I am now. So we had worked on this material for weeks in preparation. We knew they were coming. And I had all my jokes laid out. I had my 60 seconds down to a science. And then they called my name, and I went up and did a completely different set. And you know how much profanity I used? 0.
Really?
Yes,
well,
it was.
How did it go over?
I got some laughs, one or two. It didn't go over as well as I'd hoped, I'll be honest, but it didn't go over, it didn't crush my spirit at all. Good. And, Tony, I don't know if you know how the premise is, but you do your 60 seconds and then they can basically ask you questions about anything and everything. It doesn't have to be on topic. It's just whatever. Generally, it's a roast of some sort. And they roasted me for about 13 minutes. So I was on stage for quite a while.
I couldn't take that. I couldn't. My ego couldn't take it.
Well, they didn't destroy me, though. They had some good compliments as well.
Okay, that's
stage
good.
presence was good, this and that. But, you might work on your material and make it, I don't know, funny.
Well, we have a lot in common with both being authors, both doing stand-up comedy, and both liking Batman.
Dude, I know. And I call you dude. See, I'm already relaxed. You're like my best good friend. But tell me about your book.
Okay, the contents of the book, it's 267 pages of failures. It's called the Amy Binegar-Kimmes-Lyle Book of Failures. But if you're on Amazon, or as you mentioned, in Barnes & Noble, which was a surprise to me, I just want to let you know that Barnes & Noble, sometimes they feel like they compete with Amazon.
Okay.
And so somebody took a picture and said, your book is in Barnes & Noble. So that is like a real exciting moment as a self-published author to see your book in Barnes. They listed it on their website for a long time, but to have it actually in the store is like a dream come true as a writer. So fun. But anyway, so the stories are, even the book came out of a failure. Long story short, I'd written a screenplay and this entertainment attorney's like, you're nobody, you don't have any money, I'm not going to represent you. And he's like, you got to get on the map, you got to write a book. And immediately I was like, I have had a lot of failures. And so to see my book on Amazon next to like Trevor Noah and Kevin Hart and David Sedaris and Amy Poehler and Amy Schumer. One time all the Amy's were lined up. It was like Amy Poehler, Amy Schumer, Amy Lyle. And so that was kind of fun. But to see that, they all have like 10,000 reviews. I have like, 9. It was really fun to see that. But anyway, the book opens with most of these stories are true, but some of them are lies.
Okay.
And then the first sentence is, I've been married for 20 years, not to the same people, but 20 years nonetheless. And it's really just a fun book of essays about all of us trying to be, a mom or a dad and an employee and a husband or a wife and, maintain friendships and how much we fail, but you still get up every day. And it's just kind of an encouraging thing to, really laugh at yourself. I would go nuts if I couldn't laugh at myself. And I think people grow closer from sharing their failures.
Sure.
So I love that. I love that when people tell me a funny fail. So my next book is actually, it's kind of like Chicken Soup for the Soul, but failures, where people are giving me their failures. And I have like airplane fails. Oh my gosh, the best coworker, super gross coworker fails. And, relationship fails. And so it's just been so fun. And the best feedback I get is like, I thought that I sucked, but after I read your book, I realized that I suck less. And I'm like, you're welcome.
Man, that is so awesome. I have not read it, and I feel bad. I should have read it ahead of time. But I'm definitely going to get me a copy of that. I'd like an autographed copy, so whatever extra I have to pay for an autographed copy, let me know after the show. We'll get it all fixed up. We talked before also that we could both relate. My whole life is built off of failures. It honestly is. And you know what I think is funny is that whether people like to admit it or not, their lives are built on failures as well. Even the most successful cats that are out there, you're going, oh yeah, this guy, he's at the top of the world. He drives the coolest car. He's got the hottest babe. But on the inside, he's still failing, and he still fails every day. No matter what it is, there's something there that he's failing at. And I think we get caught up so much in appearances that we judge ourselves way too harshly for our own failures.
Oh, absolutely. And it's, I think the world with all the filters and the social media and the fake reality shows and all the glamour, it's like, that's really not real life. And whatever people put on social media, their life is probably normally not that good. And their life is probably normally not that bad. It just depends, because you probably have people like I do that they're like, and I've bought another car. And then there's other people like, oh, the doctor said it's not going to be long. It's like, probably both of those cases are not as extreme as they're presenting it on social media, right?
I love the relationship one's the best. Where somebody just vaguely comes out and says, oh, he thinks he's hot stuff. Well, he's nothing. And if you want to cheat on me, you just keep on walking, buddy. Because you're so hard. You're so tough and you don't care. And the worst social media post for me, I think, when people, and if somebody has a serious health issue, I don't know, maybe they could put it on there and ask for prayers or whatever. That's fine. But like when you start listing like your bunions and you start putting those pictures on there, I'm like, I don't need to know that. That is something for your closest friends and family. And we barely have met. I don't need to see your bunions on social media. And then people are comment like, I'll pray for you. I've never had bunions, so I'm sorry if anyone has bunions and they're painful and you have to have surgery. I will pray for you. I just do not want to see that on social media. I'm the same way. I've unfollowed so many people that put those kind of pictures out there. Being the popular internet sensation that I am, I'm nearly maxed out on friends on Facebook. But my blocked list and my unfollow list is very, very lengthy.
Oh, wow. I try not to do that unless... luckily, I have not been unscathed with haters from my book because I have a website and they can email me directly. And I used to get really mad and it would hurt my feelings, but now I just feel sad for them. Like if you're reading a book about somebody that's like fallen down 2 flights of steps and like her skirt rolls up and you can see her underwear and pooped her pants at a concert. I'm like, and you hate me? You're a sad person. Like what is going on in your life that you're so sad that you can't laugh at like a story like that? I feel like, wow, are they like reading this book in the basement of a meth lab? Like, wow, how bad can their life be? So I feel bad. So, but I don't have luckily anybody commenting like horrifically on my social media. If they did, I would delete them anyway, but
I've yet, and I say this I'm tentative to even say it, in that I have not had any negative feedback on my book. Now, I don't say that because it's such a great book. I probably say that because no one's reading it. But
well, hopefully that's not the case. If you start selling a lot of copies, I promise you.
Oh, yeah.
If you start selling that, I promise you'll just catch somebody on the wrong day, even if your intentions are so honorable. And I have a fail about my book going on right now. So Amazon contacted me. They're like, hey, we want to make your book like a book of the month or, a daily deal or something. And I'm like,
gosh,
sure.
Awesome.
I know, it was really fun. And they said, hey, but you've got like these 2 spaces on this page that are wonky. You need to reformat your book. And I was like, oh, okay. So I don't know how to do that because on the ebook, it's like a HTML conversion. Anyway, so I hired someone to convert it. And she converts it, and this is a true story. She gets the 2 lines out, but she creates like 57 other problems.
Yes.
And for some reason, Amazon didn't catch it. And so for like 6 months, my book was going out, and for every footnote, it has like a tiny footnote and then has the giant number next to it and all the pictures. And it's like 6 months. And I didn't know it until a person commented on Amazon. They're like, gosh, this book is funny. I love it, but the formatting is wonky. And I was like, what? And then I went and I was like, oh my gosh. So even now, the ebook, there's like 1 picture is off kilter, and Amazon is actually working on it for me. But yeah, but then I'm like, what do you expect for a woman that Murphy's Law follows her around and has a book about failures? Really? You think my book's going to be perfect? Like, give me a break.
I think
my life is perfect.
That would be a selling point. Just go, look, this is an exact, example of what I'm talking about in the book.
Yes. The hard copy is now perfect. The paperback is perfect, but that HTML, that conversion to the ebook, I challenge you to find a book that it converts, especially if you have any pictures or tables or anything
tough.
there. Like I have a table, Larry, of sex excuses that I give my husband. I put that in table format because there were so many, and the table got a little wonky. Like it was supposed to be center justified, but anyway, yeah. So I cannot touch. I just can't pull it together 100% ever. I just can't.
I can relate. I swear to God, I can relate. But as far as getting your EPUB out there, because it's an EPUB file when you're converting it for like Kindle or any kind of digital reader, I recommend a program called Scrivener. Have you used Scrivener?
No. Well, I can't do that. It gives me so much anxiety. So I just hire it out, and she, translate it to like a Mobi file, or is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Mobi?
There's a Mobi file.
She translates to that, and bless her heart, she's like, first of all, she fired me as a client because I'm like, it's also wrong. It's still wrong now. It's still wrong now. It's still wrong now. And so she's like, I can't take it anymore. So I'm dealing with Amazon directly.
Oh my gosh, that is
getting better though.
I had to have a coach to write mine, so I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. I joined a mastermind group, and there was I think 10 of us that were doing a 30. She wanted 30 people in her mastermind and wanted us all to write 30 books, well, one a piece, and wanted to do it all in 30 days and have all 30 go number 1. That's a challenge. So it ended up at the end of the day, 3 of us going live on time. And the 3 that did go live, we made number 1 in several categories on Amazon.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Congrats.
it was awesome.
That's
Thank
a
you.
big deal.
Thank you. I did it 4 categories. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
But one of them was completely ridiculous. I have no idea what category that even was. Now
that's the key, isn't it? Finding some niche categories.
Well, yeah, that's the key. You know, I don't want to give away all the secrets to being number 1, but most of them start with being named Larry. But beyond that, there are some tricks of the trade as well. But yeah, without the mastermind group and the coach, I would have never ever pulled it off. It just wouldn't have happened.
Well, I could pull off the writing part because I'm a writer, so I love to do that. But all the other stuff, I just had to hire it out. Like, I had to hire a graphic designer, I had to hire a photographer. Like, I didn't know the formatting, all of that, the ISBN number, all of that. And luckily, in Atlanta, there's a nice company that they do that for you. It's like you're still a self-published person, but they kind of pull those pieces together, which is it's called BookLogics. They're really nice.
Okay.
So it makes self-publishing a little bit easier. But as far as writing, I was so driven because I really wanted, when that attorney said you have to write a book and get on the map, I was so driven to get, the most press that I could get. And it turned out to be such an amazing year. Like, I just released my book a year ago, and it's been all these great things have happened because of it. So I'm so glad I did it.
See,
including getting my movie made, including coming out of it is I was able to land an executive producer. Her name is Suzanne Jerva, and my movie is in development. So that was my whole point, is I've been working on this movie for years and years and years. And you know how it is when you are creative, you want your work to be made. You want your work to be seen.
Sure.
So all that hard work paid off.
That is amazing. And we talk about, or at least I talk about, and so does Laura Peterson, my writing coach, talk about leveraging the book once you write it. Writing it in and of itself is a phenomenal goal. And just getting it published even if it's self-publishing, it's still a phenomenal goal. But then if you have that and you've accomplished that goal, the next step is to leverage it to the best that you possibly can. Now, I haven't talked.
I've been working that so hard in Atlanta. I have been working over, like, they're so sick of me. I'm like, please have me on your show. Please have me on your show. Please have me on your show. And most of them they'll be like, I try to approach them like I do a lot of public speaking. And I started doing this public speaking role. The name of it is Why I Shared My Most Mortifying Moments and Why You Should Too.
See, that's awesome.
And it's like a funny title, but it really is, like, to your point, you were talking earlier about being more authentic. And, like when you show up somewhere and you're like, hi, where do you live and what do you do? And if you're a doctor and you live in Manhattan and I'm a garbage man, I live in Cleveland, I'm annoyed with you right away. When really we could have a lot in common, but I'm annoyed that you live in Manhattan and you're a doctor. And maybe that's my problem, but I'm like, really? And so, but we seem to do that, in Atlanta, a lot of it's like, where do your kids go to school? And it's like this pecking order of, I'm like, our kids go to private or public school. And you can almost see their eyes rolling, And so why don't we get away from like those social economic questions? Like, I'm like, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite book? Could you listen to, stuff like that, I think would be more relationship, bring people together versus those other questions seem to tear people apart.
It's funny that you're using that analogy. I was just watching on Netflix. I want to say I watched this morning. Maybe it was last night. Called Explained, and it's a relatively new show on Netflix where they have a new episode every week, and they explain certain things. It doesn't matter what it is. eSports, cryptocurrency is an episode. Races. Why are there different races? Just all kinds of stuff, and they explain from a scientific perspective what that is. And I watched the eSports episode. And one of the early eSports gurus said that one of the most amazing things about it was the fact that you'd have a white guy, a rich guy, a poor guy, a Hispanic guy, a black guy, and we'd all be gathered around the same game back in the arcade days. We knew nothing about each other, but we had one thing in common, and it was that game. And we laughed, and we talked, we had the best time, and we had no idea the socioeconomic status of the guy sitting next to me or standing next to me. It didn't matter. All that mattered is that we had a love for this particular game, and it brought all of us together regardless of the things that today so dramatically drive everyone apart.
I know, that's what I love about books, and that's what I love about movies. My book, I'm so lucky to have, I'm a white woman, living in the suburbs. I don't have a rough life. I have a nice life. And, but, so I tried to make fun of that a little bit, I could have called it, white people problems probably. But, so it attracts some people of the same, whatever. People are like, oh, I can relate to that or whatever. But then it's so sweet that, some people have said, this is so sweet. It really touched me. They're like, when I get my paycheck, I'm going to buy your book.
Wow.
Like that's so sweet. Like that's somebody really living paycheck to paycheck. But they've, read a piece of it or seen a review and they're like, so I love that. I love that the story, I want to lift up everybody. That's what it's for. I just want people to feel better after reading it. Like, okay, I can get up one more day. Nobody's life is perfect.
Right. And, it's interesting you say that because with my book, I bought hundreds of copies. They're sitting over here on the floor, as a matter of fact. And I give them out. Whenever somebody says something similar to that, I just give them one. And, I'll even go to social events and go, oh, you like the podcast? Well, let me run out to the truck and get you my book. And, it's really more so, I know I'm never going to get rich off of 1 + 1 = podcast. I know I'm not. But it's more of relating to people and creating a commonality between everybody involved.
Yes, exactly. That's what it is. And that's, we have 4 kids. We're a blended family. And I've heard them say, well, I'm not going to take that class because I'm not going to get a good grade in it. And it's like, no, that we'd rather you take the harder class and get a B or a C than take the easy course, because that's not is that how you're going to live your life? You're just going to avoid the hard stuff. And I think the first couple years out of college, you're figuring out what you don't want to do. Some people could call those failures. I don't. It's just like, oh, well, I thought I wanted to do that, and then I did it, and now I'm shifting direction. That's success. You're moving forward. So people, I think, need to change their definition, I guess, of failure a little bit.
It's interesting that you even say that, because if you can see behind me, you can still see me, right? If you can
Yes.
see behind me and maybe read backwards, the subtitle for my book is Simplifying the Equation of Podcasting Success. And it's the same thing. It's modifying your expectations and making sure that you know what you're getting into and what you can define as success for yourself. Nobody's going to be a Joe Rogan. Nobody's going to be a Mark Maron. You're not going to have these big numbers. You're never going to get 22 million downloads a month. You may. But, you can win the lottery too. You may do that. And you have about the same chance. But if you adjust your expectations and you clearly define what you feel is success for yourself and your show, whether it's having fun, whether it's sending a positive message, whether it's promoting your business, your book, whatever it may be, define your success, and if you reach that goal, boom, you're successful.
I agree. And I think it's, I really didn't have any ideas about sales. I did a lot of research. As a self-published author, you probably heard of Dave Chesson. He's like the self-publishing guru. He tells you a lot about how important your title is, your subtitle, Amazon marketing services, all that stuff. So I was just trying to learn everything that I could to position it the best way I could. Really, frankly, again, going back to that attorney saying you have to get on the map, you have to get on the map. I think if you don't enjoy the journey of getting from point A to point B, to your point, like if that was my only goal was to have a bestseller, I don't think I would have enjoyed the process, but I really enjoyed learning about the process and what would I do differently and how could I position it, and trying to get press and, getting rejected on this pitch, but this pitch getting picked up. And so, and those are wins. Those are little wins all along the way. And so I think anyone doing anything, and also you can have a day job and be pursuing a passion of yours. Because if you hate your day job, that's a long day. So why not do something during your week that you have passion for, even if you're not going to make money at it right away?
Sure. I think as long as you're following your passion and your truth, I refer to it as your truth, then you're going to find success. And eventually you may be able to monetize that. But I think if monetization is the primary goal, you're going to come up short.
You sound like my husband. He's like today I was on Atlanta Company. It's a great morning show. They're so nice to me. And so today I was on there. It was my 19th time.
Oh my God.
And they have like this round table at the end, and they always invite me as a guest. It's so fun. My husband's like, I'm just wondering, can you monetize any of this? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know yet. I'm not sure.
Yeah, my wife's the same way. She's like, well, what are you spending now? Well, what are you spending now? When are you going to get that back? I'm like, honey, can I hire this coach? How much is it? It's 4 digits. Are you going to even see 2 digits back? It's just, it's tough. It really is tough to cross that line of passion and then money, because you really, really have to. And this is something that I say in my book as well. It's not overnight. And if you do see somebody that does it, quote unquote, overnight, either they have a backstory that you do not know, or they have plenty of money to get corporate level support, and they hire a high level media company. They hire high level advertisers. You pay to play. That's about what it amounts to. That's not even about that is what it amounts to. You have to pay. If you see an overnight success, you pay somebody to promote you. It's just that simple.
Right. And it depends on what you're doing too. For example, I was at a baby shower and I met a publicist. She just happened to be at the baby shower. So I'm like sucking her for all the information I could before. I'm surprised she didn't send me a bill. I'm like, and what about this? What about this? And she was telling me, oh, I would, bless her heart. I don't think she'd worked with authors before, where she said, I'll set you up on this giant book tour. And I was like, and she would manage it and she would do the contracts for the venue. I go, let me tell you something about a book tour. Even if I sold 1,000 books, I'd still be upside down.
Sure.
I can't afford, people don't understand how many books you have to sell to make money. Like, you can't bring in a third party to be doing that. Even the biggest people, even like Trevor Noah, he does a book signing. He still only I bet he still sells under 1,000 books.
Right.
It's more of just like he's giving back to the public and being generous, but that's not how he's selling books.
Right.
He's selling books by the thousands every day on Amazon or, Barnes & Noble or whatever.
Yeah,
So it was
it's just getting
interesting.
out there. It's getting out there and shaking hands and getting to know folks that really take everything to the next level. And I think a lot of folks don't understand that. They just want to put their see, and I see it a lot with podcasting. They want to put a product out, and it's a known statistic that most podcasts fail within the first 7 episodes. So if you make it to 7, you're doing really, really good, and you're way ahead of the curve because most people quit by then. But even, 7, it's not a miraculous number where now you have all these downloads. So, but people they don't understand the commitment that it takes and the type of things that they need to do. Even for a podcast, I still got to get out and I got to go shake hands in the public. I gotta meet people. I gotta go to, and I say this like it's a pain. It's not a pain, but it's what you do in order to promote your show, your book, whatever it may be. Make yourself known, and as you keep saying, get on the map.
Yes, and there's so many things. Well, one writer is like one of my best friends is a writer. She's written 9 novels, and she was like huge in New England, and then she moved to Georgia, and she didn't have her base anymore, right? And she just was very anti advertising, she's just very shy. And that's very common with writers.
Sure.
They're very introverted. And they almost feel like, oh, that's a dirty word, marketing. Like what? And I feel so bad because they have beautiful, beautiful works that need to be shared, but they just really think one person's going to buy it and they're going to make all their friends buy it and it's going to take off like that. But you and I both know that's normally not the case.
No, either I suck really, really bad or that's not the case. And I'm going to go with B.
It's not the case.
I'm going with B.
And you can do so many things like there are so many free things that you can do as a person, regardless of if you're a musician or you're a writer, or you're, whatever you are, a comedian. There are so many things that you can do now that are free, that are collaborative, like podcasts. And you can, pitch podcasters and say, hey, would your listeners enjoy my story? Also, there's such a need for content if you're a writer. I mean, every magazine has a digital presence now. And so you could start with your local magazines and say, hey, here's the 350 word, writing sample. And I've been able, to do that a little bit, even, soliciting bloggers and say, hey, may I be a guest blogger? So there's lots of different ways that you can get, your name out there that you can do that's not hiring a PR firm that's, thousands and thousands of dollars a month.
Amy, this conversation took a turn that I did not expect. It's a great turn. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, let's get back to the funny fail.
I want to get back to failing because, I mean, we're getting to the point where we're going to have to wrap up. And I don't want to wrap up because this conversation is just flowing. It's great. It's great, solid, as you just mentioned, content. But tell me more about your book. Give me maybe not the biggest because I don't want to spoil the plot, but give me one of your better failures that you talk about in the book.
Let's see here. I'm going to give you a failure that I think most married people or frankly divorced people can relate to. So as a woman, if I do something wrong in my relationship with my husband, I try to distract him and push him to a different direction so I don't have to take responsibility for whatever my fails are. So I put one story in there where he's in the shower and he's like he's shaving his face. He has a mirror to shave his face in the shower. And he's like, oh my gosh, did you use this razor on your legs? And I had used his razor on my legs, which he's told me 900 times not to do, but his is so much sharper than mine. And so I was like, did you go to speech therapy as a child? He's like, what? And I was like, but when you said razor, it kind of sounded like razor. And he's like, did you use this razor on your legs? And I was like, no, I use it on my lady parts. And he's like, you use it on your lady parts. It's my razor. And I'm like, there you're going again. You're putting your teeth your tongue is way too close to your teeth when you say that. Like, you need to go to speech therapy. And he's like, why is it when you do something wrong, you always try to turn it around and this is not about me? And that's just a typical day in my life. Like, I can't take responsibility for anything. I'm like, yes, I use your stupid razor.
I should bring my wife in here because she'll tell you I do the same thing. And she knows, though. Used to I could pull it off. I could, tell a little white lie and get out of things. But I guess I take on this demeanor, like this posture with my body or something. Like, yeah, it wasn't me. and she can see it from a mile away. She goes, "Okay, you're lying, aren't you?" No. She goes,
No.
and my tell is my nostrils tend to flare when I'm not telling the truth. She goes, then put your nose down.
Oh my gosh.
I can't. It's out. I'm sorry.
Okay,
So-
another fail. Oh my gosh, you have to read the story, but so I'm going to condense it. So I went to China to visit my friend Kristen. She was over there as an expat, and I have 3 little chapters about it. And the chapters are like Amy and my daughter went with me, so it was like Amy and Anna go to China, and the second chapter was like Amy and Anna are still in China, and then it says Amy and Anna are wearing out their welcome in China, because I was there for 18 days, and Kristen's like, wow, 18 days, huh? But anyway, so we're over there. We visited a facility that it was like an orphanage for children that had cardiac problems, and they were all adopted out. It was run by a Seattle organization, very well supported and run, and all the children are adopted out, all of them usually to Americans or Europeans or Canadians. And China and the United States are like 12 hours apart, right? And so I was just texting my husband, but of course he wasn't reading it, right? Because he's getting it 12 hours later. And so I texted him, I sent him a picture of this cute little girl, and all the little kids have American or European names. They're Chinese children, but they have names like Frank and, Stephanie and Tiffany. And so I sent him this picture, and I was like, oh, look at this little girl. Like, can I bring Helen home? Like, I was just kidding. Like, I'm not really going to bring Helen home. But anyway, so 12 hours later, he starts texting me, and he's like, I knew there was a reason why you went to China. I've been praying about that. And what are Helen's problems? And my husband's in medicine. He's not on the medical side. He's on the business side of medicine. But anyway, he's like, can you send me Helen's file? Like, I know a pediatric cardiologist. I mean, he went from like, he never even asked me if I was kidding. He just was like full on. And then I'm not making this up. He's like, I don't know where we would put Helen, but the children, what we could do is turn the loft, or the Buttermans down the street, they have a house for sale with more bedrooms. I hate their kitchen. We'd have to redo it. But like, he was planning. It was so sweet. It was so sweet. And then it just hurt my heart. At first I lied. Of course, I was like, well, I distracted him. I was like, I'm sorry, Helen's already been spoken for. All these children are already adopted out, which was true, because I didn't have the heart to be like, I was kidding. Like, I can't even take care of the kids I have, let alone bringing home another one. But anyway, he's so sweet. That showed the very sweet side of my husband, that he was like, oh, sure, you can go to China and come back with a baby.
Yeah. And he's excited about it.
And he was like remodeling our house for us. It was so sweet.
You're like, babe, no, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Helen's
doesn't
not.
show the sweetest side of me, of course. And then when I was there at Kristen's house, she started crying. She's like, that's the sweetest thing I've ever seen. And then my daughter's like, you said we're going to get a Chinese baby, Mom. And I looked at my daughter and I was like, how about a Chinese dog? And she goes, oh my gosh, that's even better. So I'm like, kids are fickle.
A Shar-Pei will be fine.
A Chinese dog. Can we get it right now? I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely, I need that book. I need the book.
You need it.
So does everybody that's hearing this episode. They need the book as well. And Amy, as much as I would love, I wish I had made this the last podcast of the day, because I'd like to continue talking to you. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2. No wonder you've been on that show 19 times, because you're so easy to talk to, and you've got great stories. So that's awesome. But for right now, let's wrap this thing up. Tell us where people can find you, where they can find your book. Give us some social media shortcuts, all that fun stuff. And then we'll say goodbye.
Okay, the book can be found on Amazon.com, and it's a paperback or an ebook or audio file and audiobook. And my website, if you have any funny fails, please email me, and they can be anonymous. Like, I'll use an alias, or if they want me to use their name, like Larry, if you sent me one, then I would say Larry Roberts from, your podcast. So I give you a shout out.
I'm writing tonight.
But they can send that to www.amylyle.me.com was taken. That's why I had to do .me. And then my Facebook page is the same, amylyle.me, and my Instagram is author Amy Lyle.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, author Amy Lyle, I really appreciate the conversation. It was a blast. And I'm serious. I'd love to have you back. And
I'd love to come back.
We'll allot more time next time, and we'll dig into some more fails. And maybe I'll share some additional fails of mine. So that's
what we should do. We should have a topics list, and we'll share, like, you do an airplane fail, and then I do an airplane fail, and then you do that's what we could do. We could do relationship fail, dating fails.
I'm so in.
I mean, have you ever pooped your pants? Because I already disclosed to you. Like,
Well,
that could be a whole chapter.
I don't want to share with the audience, but of course.
Oh. Yes. Everyone has pooped their pants.
Of course. Yeah, those are always good
We need
fails.
more of that in the world.
You come home with no underwear on, and your wife's like, "Where are your underwear?"
That's what happened to me, where I was like, I'm going to have to throw these underwear away. It was a combination of a concert, a very long bathroom line, and Thai food.
Oh my gosh. See, that's great. So we will definitely do that. I'll start working on that immediately. Amy,
All right, thank you so much for having me.
thank you. I really appreciate it. Take care. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You could be